We've all done it. We tell our preschoolers what we want, and then we get something totally different in return. It could be a simple request like have a seat on the rug, but that's not exactly what happens. So what do you do? What do you do when your expectation is the near opposite of your reality? Stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Celeste, your co-teacher and former classroom teacher, and I help new preschool teachers create efficient systems and processes for effective classroom management. And on this channel, I share many classroom management tips that you can bring into your classroom to help you have a successful school year. So let's get started. We're all familiar with classroom management pillars: our classroom environment, routines, procedures, rules, transitions. But beyond this, there are layers to classroom management. I've used this graphic in my masterclass, Step Up to Level Up Your Classroom Management, but I think I want to use it here as well. The bottom of the layers is their systems, or your classroom management pillars. Next is the expectations, which is basically whatever it is you are asking them to do, does it match with them developmentally? Is it something that they are able to do? So basically, does your idea about what they can do or should do they match? Then we have our words and action. The next thing we have is the child's external world. And finally, we have the child's internal world. So for this video, I will focus on the level above systems and pillars, which are your expectations. So let's break this down. I want you to think about the fact that there are times during your day where you need to move your children from one area to another area. So for this example, I want you to think about you moving the children from inside your classroom and trying to get them outside to the playground. Pretend that you have to walk down the hall to get outside to the playground. Some problems or some mistakes that I see new teachers make is that in their head, the idea from getting to from their classroom to the playground means that the children will line up in their classroom. Okay, that seems reasonable. And then they will walk them outside in a straight line, and they're all quiet because of their other classrooms that are engaged in doing work, and maybe you're passing by the front office, something like that. And then you continue your straight line until you get outside, and then you can tell them to go ahead and have some fun. That all seems pretty reasonable, but we know that that's not always the case. It doesn't happen as smoothly as we think or we expect it to be. So you have to think, are the children ready for this type of transition? Are they going to be able to walk from the classroom to the playground in a line quietly through the hallways? So you may have to come to terms with your expectation of this. So this has happened to me before, where I was in a classroom of 2.5-year-olds, 3-year-olds. I had to come to terms that maybe my expectation of the children walking down the hallway in a straight line quietly was a bit much for them at the time. I'm just saying that during that particular time that I wanted to do that the first time or the first couple of months, that it would take more time for them to be able to do that, and that's perfectly fine. So I knew that instead of getting frustrated, instead of getting upset or thinking that they're doing this on purpose, that they're making noise in the hallway, or they're not walking behind the person in front of them, that thinking that it's them testing me or something like that, that I had to look at my expectations and be like, okay, so what? They're not walking down the hallway quietly. Did I lose any of them on the way to the playground? I had to come to terms with that, and then basically relax and not even worry. Granted, running down the hallway is a safety hazard, or not paying attention to where they're going, because a door may open or something like that is a safety hazard. But as long as I am able to get them from one area to the area that I need to get them to for recess, then I thought that that was fine. And that was what I was working for. making sure that I didn't lose any of them on the way there, making sure that they didn't get hurt on the way there. And then we would try it again the next day. The reason why I am telling you this story is because sometimes you have to check your expectations. Children, depending on what part of the year, depending on how old they are, and they're in their development, they may not be ready for what you want them to do. And you just have to roll with it. You have to come up with a different plan or a different expectation. Try not to base the way you react to them on the behavior that they're showing you. It's the fact that they're not developmentally ready for that. Which leads me to say that maybe it's most likely the expectation. And basically, sometimes we want our preschool students to do something that they are just simply not ready to do. And when we have these unrealistic expectations for our students and they don't meet them, then we automatically assume that it's because that they just don't know how to listen, or they're just trying to be defiant or something. And these are all things that I've heard throughout the years and things that I've thought myself. So a few of those expectations, if I want to give other examples than the example of walking down the hallway, another thing could be any kind of transition where you expect complete silence from your students, or you not only expect complete silence during the transition, but you have nothing prepared for that transition time. And the other thing could be walking in a straight line or waiting their turn for something. Or here's a good one, expecting the rice, the water, whatever you have in the water table to remain in the water table when the children are playing. And the list could go on and on. These things may bother you, but they're not necessarily misbehaviors. So wouldn't changing the expectation based on age or ability relieve that stress of thinking that they're just not listening to you? Expectations can lead to frustrations real quick. And sometimes you fall to the expectations of your administrators or even other teachers. I, for instance, have been guilty of that, where working as a floater one year where the teacher wanted the children to sit on the edge of the carpet. For whatever reason, that was a big deal. And for me, it wasn't such a big deal. I figured as long as the children are all on the carpet and they're all paying attention to me and doing the activity or participating, that was great. But having worked as a floater where everybody had to be sitting on the edge of the carpet, it was a must that I fell into that. And I started, when I got my classroom, I started requesting that the children sit on the edge of the carpet. We have to really think about what we are asking them to do. Like, is it because we want it to look like a perfectly semicircle of children, or does it really have to do with the activity? So again, pick your battles and think about what is it that you're expecting them to do. And does it have anything to do with safety, or is it something that you just want them to do? Speaking of falling to the expectations of your coworkers, sometimes your expectations are influenced by what other teachers tell you. So I might have mentioned this story before on another video, but one of my earliest teaching experiences as a preschool teacher was one year when I was working pre-K, and a group of teachers were telling me about a child because they had him in the daycare part, the 2-year-old classroom, and they felt like they knew enough about him that they could tell me and warn me of the type of behaviors that would happen in my classroom. So it made me not only nervous but sick to my stomach. Like, who was this kid, and what was it that, that created this reputation that they felt the need to warn me? And yes, he was a handful at the beginning of the year, but what I did notice is that the way I approached him and the expectations that I had of him didn't help, because I had already formed an opinion about this child before he even got into my room. So that didn't help. So not to go into the whole story, but I had to change the way I approached him and the situation. And I always say that this turned out to be one of my most favorite years because it was such a learning experience for me, especially at the early onset of my career. So I want to say this, that every child deserves like a clean slate. Every day, even when you are still upset about what happened the day before. And remember that growth happens over time, and it could be a different school year, it could be a different month, it could be just with a different teacher, the growth happens. Maturity develops as the days and the weeks go on, and we can't control the circumstances in which they live or what they experience or have experienced outside of the school. As hard as it is to treat each day as a brand new day, we have to remind ourselves that it is a brand new day. And remember, if we want grace when we fall and have a hard time getting back up so that we can try again, then we need to make sure that we are offering that grace to children as they try to figure themselves out. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and drop in the chat what your thoughts are on that. And if you've gotten to this point, go ahead and drop the word grace in the comments. So part of what helped during that whole process with that early classroom was the fact that I reflected. And I say this all the time, that reflection is like the superpower, and I've actually have a video on that you can check out, and how much it can help and change and transform your classroom because of the work that you do in that reflection time. So go ahead and check that out. So, and as you're going through this reflection process, you also may want to talk things out with people that are close to you, people that are your accountability partners that you have in your school, and just seek advice, because sometimes what we see is not really the totality of it all. So getting new, fresh eyes on something can definitely open your eyes so that you're able to see your blind spots and know that, okay, I said this, but I was showing something else. So having a fresh pair of eyes on a situation that you're having in your classroom can really help. And I think that that's part of the reflection as well, like knowing that you need help. So I told this story on Instagram a few months ago, I think it was a few months ago, where I had went into a post office and I saw that there was a line. I was waiting to get called to one of the cashiers, and there was a man at one of them, and he had a box and a bag, and he was trying to figure out how to ship his items. He had a box, and then he had a bag on top. He took the bag and he showed the clerk what was inside the bag, and then he put it back on top, and I heard her say, "How do you want to send these?" And he looked at the box and the bag, and he was moving the bag all around, and then he said, "I don't know." And then I heard the clerk say to him, "What about putting the bag inside the box?" So he stopped, he opened up the box, he put the bag inside, and then he closed the box back. And then he made a little joke like, "Oh, that's why you get paid the big bucks." And they laughed. And that made me think, like, as this was all playing out, it made me think like, I wonder why he didn't try that on his own. Like, why didn't that occur to him to try? And it got me thinking about how many times we go through life and overlook something, and how that same thing is super obvious to someone else. There's a way to go about, if you look at it from this point of view, that the problem can be fixed. And we all have blind spots, because I think to myself, like, that was his blind spot. Like, he couldn't see that, oh, just put the bag inside the box and then mail it off that way. He couldn't see that for whatever reason, that it took another person to see this and help him solve this problem. The other person saw the solution. So that's why I say getting fresh eyes on your situation may also be helpful for you, because we all have those blind spots, and just having someone else look at your situation or be able to tell them what is going on, maybe they can see something that you are not seeing. I also have an opportunity to share as well. Speaking of getting eyes on your situation and taking a look at those blind spots, I have room for one pro bono one-on-one coaching for 6 weeks. If you are interested in working with me as a one-on-one client, I have a link for you in the description where we can discuss what's been going on and we can work through your classroom issues on a one-to-one basis for 6 weeks. It is pro bono, so it's absolutely free, but I only have space for one right now. So go ahead and click that link. Also, this opportunity expires on the 25th, November 25th, 2022. Let's try to get that classroom back on track. Let's try to make sure that the next half of the school year is the best half of your school year. So after this whole video, I don't want you thinking like the problem is you. That wasn't the goal of this at all. It's not just you that is going through an issue in your classroom, and it's not just your class. So don't be so hard on yourself. This video was not about, oh, these are your issues that you are bringing into the classroom. No, this is just one piece that sometimes we are expecting something that they are just not able to do right now, and we think that it is them being defiant or them just not listening to you. And I don't want you to think that they're not listening to you. It's just because that the expectation may be well out of their ability right now. I hope this video was helpful for you. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that other new teachers can find it as well. And share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when the next video has been posted. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye!